Welcome everyone to Beth Bell Live. Every Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, we're here talking about matters of the heart. Anything that's on your mind is probably deeply embedded in your heart in some way, shape, or form. And it oftentimes has to do with relationships. Sometimes the ones that give us big love and also the ones that give us big heartbreak. But at the end of the day, they're all life lessons to be learned. So on the show, I have questions coming in from the live audience online. And today we also have a special studio audience, which I'm always very excited to have. So we'll see what comes through and what the dynamic is and what's heavy on everyone's heart here. As we get going, though, please, if you're interested in asking your question, you're online. You can type into the comments and we will put you in queue and priority to answer your question. If you're watching on replay, you can still put in the comments, but you can also go to bethbell.me/question. It's a little bit more private, but we love having you interact here with us live and on replay. So hit the bell, subscribe, and you won't miss an episode. You'll know exactly when we go live on Sundays at 11:11. Okay, the last thing I'll say is, what's your state of the heart? I always like to know in the comments. Put your color of heart. Is it orange? Is it blue? Is it black? Is it broken? It's always fun to know where you're at in your state of the heart. And you can also go to bethbell.me and do the state of the heart assessment and find out, according to that, where you're at as well and get a few tips, tools, and techniques to help you through. All right, we're going to jump into the first question. First question is, I had a dream about a boyfriend I dated over 20 years ago. We were in the same room, but didn't have any romantic interaction. What do you think this is revealing? Am I still holding on to something? That's a really great question. And I think you probably know the answer to that. And what I would encourage you to do is a little bit more deeper reflection. I love recommending journaling because sometimes when we just sit with that pencil or pen in our hand and we just ask the question is, hey, what is this revealing to me? But what's coming to me to share is that it feels very soft and it feels very safe, and it feels kind of like a hello, like a let's just remember the good times. Let's remember the lessons that we learned, the things that came out of this beautiful relationship. And it doesn't feel that there's any energy around necessarily rekindling or that there's something that you have to heal or something that you have to do unless you're feeling something in your body. If you can think back, because I know the longer we go, sometimes it's harder to get into like that dream state and exactly like what was happening and what we were thinking. But if you can feel when you wake up in the morning in regards to a dream, like where in my body did I actually feel that? Did I feel something? Did I feel that I was missing that person? Did I feel that there were these thoughts that were, coming across my screen in the dream state? Those are the things that I would say pay attention to, because it may not even be about that particular person. It may be just something in your psyche, in your subconscious, that's coming back around to say, hey, take a look at me. Let's just dust this off. So I would just look at it with a real fond heart and a real open heart to feel, all the blessings that came from that relationship with that person, and thank them, because there's a good chance that they may also have been thinking of you the day before, or maybe you met in your dream state somewhere out in the cosmos. We don't know. But I don't think we have to read too far into it. And I feel like you're getting the lesson, and I feel like you know what that deeper meaning of that dream is. But journal it out and really get into just that feeling of like what really worked with us, and that you can apply to any relationship that you may be in today. All right, hopefully that's helpful. I always love to hear, put in the comments if you're on with us live. And we're going to go to our studio audience because I see we've got somebody that's already ready to ask a question.
Hi.
Hi.
The guides have said that my person is in my space. Do I already know him? And if so, what can you tell me about it?
Yeah, the guides say that he's in your space. I think what I would say is, how do you feel about if he's in your space? Is there like this real heart-centered feeling, like you feel like, oh, he's just hovering over my shoulder? And if he is, I would say he is a lot closer to you than if he's feeling like he's still distant, or if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not really feeling that romantic feeling. And what I mean by that, like, that heart feeling, like when you're light in your heart, when your heart feels really open. If you're feeling that, I think he's really close by. If you're not feeling that, I get the image that he's sort of dancing around you, he or she, whatever your partner is. And that's a time to just really enter into the fun of that dance, right? What is it about them? The basics. What is it about them that I really want them to have? The qualities that I really want them to have, and then am I exuding that myself? Am I really doing that? And when you sort of do your own little checklist, I think it tells you, okay, I'm closer, I'm closer, I'm closer, and oh well, wait, there's like one thing here that yeah, I'm not quite there, right? That's not quite where I'm at. And we want to attract people oftentimes when we're feeling healed and whole. But as we know, we attract people oftentimes for our wounds as well. So if you're in a place, which it feels like you are in a place where, you're not looking for that wound thing, you're way beyond that. And you're just looking for that divine complement, that person that's going to just help be in relationship with you in such a unconditional giving and receiving kind of way. So yeah, it feels like they are very close by. But again, that can change, as you know, every day, right? When our heart's sort of more open or more closed. And you could be passing the same person because you said, well, is it someone I know? I feel like it's someone that you do know, but I don't feel like it's someone that you know super well. It's just coming to me that this person is like in your periphery. So I think that's why I'm getting the open heart, closed heart. Not that your heart's closed, but just like, if you're at the grocery store, you might be passing that person. But depending upon what's happening in your life and sort of your mood that day, you might not have that energy field that's like going, come talk to me. And then another day, it might be that you're like, oh yeah, everything just feels in flow, and oh, there they are, and oh, bump elbows, and oh gosh, didn't I see you at such and such event, or something like that. So it feels like it's going to be someone that you do have an acquaintance relationship with, but not necessarily a close one. But we never know, do we? I think it's just the message I keep getting is just to keep that heart light open, with discernment, because, as we ascend and we're out there and we're bright, we attract a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily mean that they're our person or that they're someone that we need to give our light to. But, and you're very astute to that as to when that person walks up to you, if it's someone that you're like, oh yeah, this is a connection or not. So I think just it sounds like you're wanting to bring this person in sooner rather than later. And so that would be what I would say is just really, the other thing I'm getting is the eye contact. I think when we're in our groups, whatever it is, if we're going to meditation or we're going to yoga, we're a little bit more practiced with making the eye contact because we're safer in a sense, because we know that everyone's sort of, when we're out in the grocery store, what's coming is to still do that eye contact with even more frequency. Partly because I think it brings that person into your energy field easier. And also because that's our work as light workers, way showers, whatever we want to call ourselves, that we want to bring that light through our eyes that's coming from our heart and exude it out to people so that they can feel that acknowledgement of being seen and feeling your love emanating out into the world. So it feels like it's like a lot bigger than just not just, but like meeting the partner. It feels like there's a lot of partners that are actually coming into your life, whether it's business or romantic or whatever. So there's a lot of different people that are looking to come close. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right. We're going to go on to the next question here. And if anyone else in the studio audience is up for a question, please feel free to jump in. All right. Question number 2. My sister did something that was complete betrayal, and I can't find it in my heart to forgive her. I know that is not going to be helpful for me, but I don't know how to move past it. How can I get beyond this? First of all, I would say I really like that you're acknowledging that there's a heart and a head component to this, and that your mind is definitely stopping you from dropping deeper into your heart. And I think that's okay. to kind of have this mind mess for a little bit, but I would follow the trail of the mind mess, meaning follow those thoughts that you see coming around, because our mind wants to zoom in on the betrayal, zoom in on how that person made me feel, zoom in on I'm experiencing this emotion. Now, that's all good stuff to do because you want to acknowledge what's happening somatically in your body. But then there's a time and a space where you go, okay, but I don't want to continue to stay in that energy. I want to go deeper because I've asked at a soul level my sister to do this betrayal. And I know that's always hard because we're like, why would I do that? But the ones that are closest to us oftentimes have the juiciest, deepest nuggets and lessons for us. And so it feels that what you're really needing to do is get in and see sort of the periphery of what this is. And the periphery might be, it's very like dynamic. The periphery might be what's happening from childhood, right? So it's not just like this external environment periphery. It's like, yeah, let's go back to something that happened when we were little. It could be from a previous life, right? We don't really know exactly where the genesis is, but once you state the intention to your higher self to figure out where it is, I'm going to take that back, to not figure out, but to feel out what it is that you are entangled with your sister on this soul contract with. I think asking that question and asking for the support and asking for the insights to come to you is going to be where you get back into that heart-centered space. Otherwise, as we know, the mind will take us around and around and around and around. I always think of it as like a rabbit hole, right? We have these choices in life when the thoughts start coming, the betrayal, the right, whatever the storylines are, and we're like walking around that little hole. And there's a point where we either dive in and we go deep and we just spend a lot of time trying to dig ourselves out, or we say, yeah, no, okay, I'm gonna feel deep, but I'm not gonna go deep in the storylines of the mind. So I feel like that's where you're at, is just a little bit of extra work, if you will, on not following the mind and just going deeper in and saying, okay, what's in it? What's in it for me? What is the deeper lesson? And don't be so hard on yourself about forgiveness. Forgiveness is obviously the answer to everything, as well as gratefulness. But sometimes I think we get really hard on ourselves for not forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. So try to stay out of that energy, because I feel like you're a very aware person. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking the question in the way that you did. So just really when you feel that harshness about like, I'm not able to forgive her, that feeling comes in, go take a hot bath if you can. Go, have a mantra that comes to mind that you say, okay, I'm going to just say this. I'm going to go back, go to a spot in your life where you had a beautiful moment with your sister, where you know that you had that love that was shared between the two of you. And then just anchor in, as much as you have all this other noise happening, anchor in that feeling of what it's like when you're with your sister and you had that loving look, that heartfelt look, and focus on that and ask that love that's within you to show you how to move through this. Because that's really where the answer is. It's not anywhere on the external. It's not going to come from the mind. It's going to come from the heart and the soul contract that the two of you have together. And just one other thing that comes to mind to share is, depending upon your relationship with her, you could also be bold, and you could call her or text her and say, I'm having a really hard time and I want to forgive, but I'm not there yet. Would you be willing to just do a few exercises with me to look at what our soul contract is? And if she's someone that's open to that kind of work, you might be surprised, because then she goes, oh, okay, maybe we're going to take the heat off of us and the details about us and get to something that's bigger than us and is going to help both of us, because she's also equally as impacted, in a sense, just different storylines, right? So she wants your love and you want her love. So I think that's going to be a way that you guys might be able to come to a happy medium. It's just like, hey, let's figure out what's the soul contract between us. And it lightens the mood just a little bit too. It gets you out of some of the deeper details. Okay, hopefully that's helpful. If not, I'm always happy for you to schedule a one-on-one session. We can go deeper. We can have more dialogue. And if you're on with us live, please write more, and I can share more if necessary. All right, I think we'll go on to the next question. We've got another studio audience member. I'd love to answer.
So I am 41, and it took me 40 years to get engaged. I'm already not engaged anymore. So it's all good, and I'm moving through it. But I would love to understand, this area of my life has been sort of where all my lessons have been, and I've done a ton of work in it. And like, what is next for this area of my life, or even, what is left to do if I need to do more personal growth, or what is left, or whatever feels good too.
Yeah,
Whatever direction feels good to go in.
When you first started talking, what was coming is to unravel the concept of engagement and marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I think we as society, the collective, I'm not saying you necessarily, but we get so focused on the idea of finding the one, of getting married. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that's you. I feel like you have done all the work, and it's like you were ready to share your soul with someone, and that person felt like it was the right person, and it was the one. And then the wheels fell off. But so the first thing feels like, if there's a way to go into your mind to just unravel your ideas around engagement and what that might mean to you, that would be step one. Because I feel like it's going to open up. You've already said that you've learned a lot of lessons. So I like that, because it means that you've looked at every relationship as a lesson, as a, what can I learn from you? And as you move forward, I think that what you're wanting to do is just share that deeper love within yourself. And so going deeper within yourself for that real pureness of your love without any, I guess I keep hearing the question that's, is there more work? Is there more work? Is there more work? And I know you know the answer, which is there's always more work, right? We're always looking to do more work. But we don't want to make it work. We want to make it fun. Like, there's a way to kind of look at this as fun. And I think as an ascended person on the planet, you are also looking for someone to meet you vibrationally where you're at. And it feels like maybe that was part of the discord of what had happened in this last situation, was that there was a lot of things in this 3D realm that probably matched up and felt like, oh yeah, this is a good match. We can build this life together. But there was something vibrationally, a thread in there that felt like it was off. And so it's a bit of a blessing that didn't come to fruition. And I feel like you see that already. And the question was more about the future, right? How to reframe it. Can you just restate the actual question part of it?
Yeah, I think my question was just, what is next in this area of my life?
Yeah, and I think it's to go deeper into that soul contract that you have with yourself, of what are you here to do on the planet, which I feel like you know what that is, but I feel like there's another level to it. And if that person or any other person right in this moment was in your life, they could either help to catapult what your purpose is, or they could help to just provide a little bit more chaos. So it actually feels like it's more on the side of not doing more work, not doing more healing work. And it almost feels like that person, that next person is also doing their work. And so it's like, okay, well, when we just really let it go, to just go, okay, I'm doing my work, they're doing their work, and I'm focused on what my mission on the planet is, and my own self-love for me, and what I'm here to do. It brings that beautiful combination of just releasing the ideas of time. And I'm not saying you're saying it needs to happen, because you're not. I don't feel that at all. But in our minds want to say, oh, when are we going to be with that person? When is this thing going to happen? And I think that's also where the blissfulness can be, is just in the curiosity of watching, what's aligning and what's setting up. And it feels like there's probably a lot of people that are already in your sphere right now that have a lot of potential to be partners in some way, shape, or form. So it feels like the what next is just you. I just keep getting you. I just keep getting this big beam of light that's coming down, where you're just connecting to your own divinity, your oneness, your just exuding who you are and your template. And that feels like that's like right now the most important thing to focus on, and to just keep doing any, I'm not getting that there's big work, but just any residual work on, what happened with this relationship for you, right? Because sometimes we get focused on them, but it's like, what is it in there for me? And I think that really deep self-love journey that you're already on and you've been doing for a long time is going to help with your mission, and to attract that person that's also, really in alignment to be that divine complement to help catapult. Is that helpful?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Do we have anyone online that's coming in, or? Okay. All right. So another question here. When I fall in love, I totally lose myself. And I love this because I don't fear the breakup. However, I typically go deeper than my partner, and we break up before getting to that juicy spot of dissolving into one together. It makes me a little shy as I approach finding another partner. How do I not hold my heart back when entering a new relationship? I'm always going to say, don't ever hold your heart back. And oftentimes we do jump in when we've done all this work and we're really there in wanting to share our love, and the giving and receiving being very reciprocal. Open your heart. Yes, use discernment. And if someone's not deserving your love based on their actions, their behaviors, the things that they're doing, things that they're saying or not saying, then you kind of take a look at it. But go in, big love, open your heart, because what happens is we help open other people's hearts beyond what they knew they could do. The more heart work we do, the more not only are we happier and are we more in love with ourselves, but we're able to share that love and activate that love in someone else. And an example that comes to mind is if you've ever had a child. I actually haven't had a child. I've had a fur baby, but I know the essence of it from other lives, that when you have a child, you have this deep soul love and connection that comes through, and then that little child grows up, and all of the contracts start coming out that you guys have as souls, and all these things happen as a result. And sometimes that love, you're always going to love the child in most cases, but there's like these rubs and these discords and all of these things that happen, and it feels like that's kind of where you're at, is that you're wanting to keep that glow of the innocence of the early love, and let the other person be exactly who they are. And if they can't show up in the same way, I wouldn't go like, oh, they're not showing up in the same way. I would just really, really feel into like what the match is between you, and allow them ever so slowly to open their heart. Especially, this is a little bit stereotypical, but especially with men and women dynamics, oftentimes women are just like, we're just sometimes easier to come in with a bigger open heart, and men are a little bit more like, I'm gonna really suss this out, and I'm gonna make sure that I can provide this woman with all the solutions that she needs. And so it's really just allowing that dynamic of giving and receiving to happen, and also the dynamic of the masculine and the feminine in the relationship. And so that might also be something that's coming forward about there may be a little bit extra masculine energy coming in for you in these relationships, where you're kind of like, I don't want to say you're overpowering them, because I don't feel like you're overpowering them. I feel like what you're doing is you're so confident, which is still great. But there's an energy of which we soften as women to take that confidence level and just sink into it and embody it and feel it, but we don't have to project it out to them. We don't have to, like, there's a way that sometimes we can make men feel a little insecure, even though they may be very confident and very secure, but it's like the strength of this feminine energy that needs also to be in balance. So it feels like there's an element of that as well. And I think you feel very healthy. So I don't think that there's like this wound or this like attachment that you're trying to do with the big love. I would just say keep an eye open for anything that does feel overly attachment oriented, meaning like that you're love bombing them, right? That's a very different thing. If you're love bombing someone and you're giving to secure a relationship. And I feel like that's a little bit more for the collective because I'm not getting that energy around you specifically, but that oftentimes can happen where there's like a real love bombing happening. And so that's where I would go back to the beginning of what I said of using your discernment as well for yourself and for them and how they're able to receive. Because if they're not able to receive, then it may feel like love bombing, even though it's not. It may feel to them like it's just too much, like, whoa, I'm going too deep, too fast, and I'm not ready for that. So, yeah, I think just have that real sensitivity chip for your own heart and for their heart to just feel into like, where are they at? And then just love them for where they're at and let them be who they are and let them stumble and let them, feel the fear and then bring it up like, hey, I was just thinking, I'm just making this up for dialogue, but I was just thinking, I just really love you. And I just feel like it's so easy for me to just love, love, love. How is it for you? So you start that dialogue and you start to get them to talk a little bit more about it. And then I think you're not going to find like these abrupt endings where, you're like, wait, I didn't see that coming. Because then you're getting them to go deeper into their heart. You're getting them to talk a little bit more about what's on their heart. And you're able to see, not from an assessment or a judgment, but you're able to see like, where are they in their awakening journey? Like, can they go where I really want them to go? Because they might not be able to, and that's okay too. And then we say, okay, well then maybe this is time to close up. And sometimes, leaving partnerships early is the most helpful thing you can do because sometimes they go off and do their work. And if you're meant to be, they come back. And so that might be the situation as well, is that, okay, when that kind of comes up and you feel like, oh no, they're going to run, then just let them run. And then sit with it within you, like how does that feel for me? And am I able to do that? And that'll tell you a lot about where you're at with really, letting, what is the phrase, what you love the most, you must set free. So you're just like letting it go. And then it means that you're not in your own fear. You're not in fear of losing love because you know that love is within you and you're attracting people to share it with and to have a reciprocal relationship with. So, all right, hopefully that's helpful. If not, I would love to hear more in the comments, or if it is, I would love to hear more in the comments. So, all right, I think we have more questions coming from the studio audience.
Hello.
Hi.
This is going to be a fun one.
Okay.
So I've been with my husband for 20 years. I love him dearly. He loves me, adores me. I find myself falling in love with other people. What's up with that?
Well, can I clarify? When you say falling in love with other people, do you mean romantically? Do you
Yes,
mean opposite
definitely.
sex? Okay.
Oh, yes, opposite
Yeah.
sex.
Okay. Well,
not all the time. It
right.
just, when it happens, I'm like, I'm smitten and I can see a whole life. Like, does that mean that I'm not supposed to be with my partner? Like, it's very confusing.
Yeah. I think it's all about the soul contract you have with your partner. Now, we ebb and flow. I'm a very monogamous type of person, but I do know the value for some people to have multiple people in their lives that they love and be romantically involved. Personally, I think that being romantically involved with one person and having all of the complexities that come in is enough for me. But there's times when someone does come into our life, and I feel like what they're reflecting is possibly something that you're just feeling like you're missing. And what I would say that comes to mind first is to go to your husband and say, hey, maybe you already do this. Here's what happened. Like, I just met this person and I'm in, like, well, whatever you're feeling, like if it's embarrassed or like scared or nervous, like I'm nervous to tell you that, like, I just had this little, but I really would love to leverage that spark with you, honey, because I'm married to you and I really want to have that like extra. So if it's possible to transfer, if you feel like that's, like okay, I'm going to transfer this, and just having the open conversation with your husband, I think really helps him to go, oh, maybe I need to, and I don't mean like up my game in like the truest sense. I just mean like, oh gosh, maybe that spark between us needs to get reignited a little bit in that particular area, whatever that area is, because that person is reflecting something to you. I think also is to not feel, I'm not feeling that you're feeling this, but for the collective, I feel like people immediately want to shut it down. You're like, okay, I got to shut that down because it's not appropriate. And what I would say is, I would be very upfront with the person that you're interacting with, like, hey, I am married. And I'm really enjoying our conversation, so that you're very upfront, right? So that your husband, there's nothing that happens energetically between you and your husband because you're saying something that you wouldn't, like I always think, if your husband, my husband was standing here, would I say this to this person? And so it's like really kind of having that true north compass within yourself and saying, I'm married, I'm really enjoying this energy, I'm really enjoying you. And then explore that. And then, if it feels appropriate in that day, because sometimes it's just a passing thing. If it's a passing thing, then it's a passing thing. But if it feels like, oh, this person, I'm meeting them again, the sooner you can have the conversation with your husband, the better. There is something about the human psyche, and it's like secrets that keeps coming to mind, right? There's like an energy behind like this secret, but it's not the true word of secret. It's like the unknown, right? So when we're in a relationship for so long, I'm not saying your marriage is boring. It's not, but there is like, you miss that initial spark, So there's stages of love. And the first stage is attraction. Okay, I'm attracted, right? The second stage is infatuation. And so if you're attracted to someone and then you allow your mind to latch on and you become infatuated, oh goodness, it's so hard to then get out, because you're building a fantasy about this other person. Chances are they won't pay out on that fantasy. And that's where I think like the important part is for you to go to your husband and just be really upfront, like, hey, this is what happened. Because I think you would appreciate that as a woman if he came to you and said, honey, I love you. I think you are sexier than all get out, and I want nothing more than to be with you and you only. But this really crazy thing happened. This lady came up to me, and I just felt like we really had this energy. I just want to tell you, because I don't want to build something that is not what it's supposed to be. However that sounds. I think you'd feel like, oh gosh, honey, thank you so much. You might feel a little, as anyone would, a little like, oh gosh, right? And then you feel like, oh wait, do I need to up my game a little bit? But it's not about upping the game. It's about just saying, okay, honey, I want that spark back with you. I want that. And so maybe it's, hey, let's reinstate a date night. Let's reinstate a new sex position. Let's reinstate, something that creates that unexpected between us. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do. Because I think too, we just get so like in our patterns and in our even in our lovemaking, it's like things kind of happen the same way. And so, yeah, maybe there's something new you can do that kind of brings that excitement in. Because I think that's all those people are doing, is just saying like, hey, like, let's have a little bit more excitement. And if your husband's open to it and you're open to it, I mean, there is the possibility. Again, it's not something that I necessarily feel as aligned with, but you could entertain the idea of, hey, are we supposed to have multiple partners in this relationship, and see what happens with that. And sometimes that alone also just kind of can just squish it, right? And just be like, yeah, no, we don't want that. And then just having explored it and putting it out there, it just feels like sometimes it can just take the energy and just go, right? And also you might feel the emotion of your partner, of what it would be before anything happens with this other person, of how hurt they might feel. And not to make you feel bad, but just to make you go, oh gosh, wow. Yeah, exploring that spark with this other person has nothing compared to like the depth and the love and like what that would do to hurt. So I think it's the beginning stage and that's why I love that you're asking the question, because I think you're really being like conscious and aware about it. You're not denying yourself, and you're not saying, oh, I'm going to pretend like I didn't have that feeling. It's like, no, It's like something within you is wanting to be reignited in another way, yeah, I think with your husband. And so, yeah, take that fun feeling. And if you don't feel comfortable telling your husband, I don't think you have to either. I think you could just take the energy of it and just say, yeah, phew, thanks for making me feel that butterfly, or making me feel that, like, yeah. And then go back and, like, if it, okay, I know I'm going on, but, like, I keep getting different things. Like, if you think that the guy is super sexy, like, if there's just something about his look, there might be something you can go back to your husband and say, hey, how about, like, a new shirt, or how about a new, right? Like, so something that changes it up in that way too. Like, it doesn't always have to be, like, so serious and intense. It could just be like, yeah, I really like that guy's style, and I kind of wish my husband would, change his style a little bit, or up it a little bit, So it's like that, just making it fun, as opposed to making it feel naughty or serious or guilty, or, like, am I bad because I felt that? No, you're great. It means you're alive. It means you're, in love with yourself, and that you're putting yourself out there, and that other people are seeing that, and they're wanting some of that, and sitting in that queendom of, like, I'm married, and I'm in a relationship, and I'm also attracting really incredible people that are sparking me, and thank you for that, spirit, thank you. And yeah, I think it sounds like a lot of fun, actually. Have more
Thank you.
fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Can I ask just a
Yeah.
little additional question? Are we supposed to have one soulmate only in one lifetime?
Most people do not have one soulmate in a lifetime. Most people have multiple soulmates, because most people have lived multiple lives. And it really just depends upon what you chose coming in. If you wanted to reconnect with all of those soulmates, or maybe you ended up being with that one soulmate, you got married in high school or college or whatever, and you stay together the whole time. So there's nothing against it. The most important thing is that we learn the lessons to keep growing and expanding if we're on this journey, right? If we've come here to be light workers, and if we just, okay, if you've come here to be happy, if you come to planet Earth to be happy, right? It's all about learning the lessons. And those lessons are the big love and the big heartbreak. And for some people, it's many, many, many relationships. And I think, it kind of tails back to, like, an earlier question about, getting rid of, like, some of these ideas about marriage, and like, yeah, the paper, and all of that, because I feel so strongly that when we realize that they're all soul contracts, they're all reflections of ourselves that are here to help us learn more about who we are, that, yeah, you could have many, many and never be married, and it's still okay. It's like, but society wants to say, and I know this is kind of beyond your question, but it's just coming through that society often wants to say that you have to get married, and that if you didn't get married, that you failed in some way. And I think the only way, and you never fail, but the only way you fail is if you don't learn. If you don't learn from one relationship to the other. I do value tremendously long-term committed relationships, me personally. So I do think that there is value in growing, as you have with your husband for 20 plus years, because there's a depth in that a lot of people don't get, because they just haven't had that 20 years, and they haven't had all those life experiences. And so, so that's the beauty, I think, of having, if we're going to say, like, one soulmate, or one person in our lives. And we never know what happens, things happen, and twists and turns take place. And so, absolutely, I think for most people, it's multiple soulmates. And I'll say that we get caught up in this romantic idea of soulmates, but we have lots of soulmates that could be someone that we have a charge with, but that we're never going to be romantic with. And that still can be a soulmate. That could still be someone that's, yeah, I mean, our children, and, they're all soulmates to us in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, the idea of one romantic soulmate forever and ever and ever is possible in one lifetime, but for most people, it's not what they set themselves up for.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right, we've got more opportunities for the live audience, and I'll go on to one other pre-submitted question here too. I've had a gentleman over to my house to help me fix things and organize my new home. I'm not romantically interested in him, but he keeps coming on to me and saying, I love you. I've been open and honest that I'm not interested, and he keeps saying it's all innocent. I like him around. I just don't want to dance with this energy of him pushing romantic chemistry on me. What should I do to make it stop and not hurt his feelings? Well, first of all, I think you're doing the right things as far as communicating to him. So that's great. I would have more fun with it. If you're wanting to bring in a partner into your life, I would actually just have fun with it, in the sense that when he, comes on to you, there's an element of, I'm not saying you're like imagining that he's your boyfriend, no, but you're kind of in that energy of like, oh, this is fun to have a guy pay attention to me. Oh, this is fun. Oh, this is fun. Oh, this is fun. Okay, this is not fun. That is not fun when you get that close to me and you're in my space, because that's not fun for me. And what's coming forward is that this is such a perfect opportunity for you to practice your communication skills. Practice what feels good, what doesn't feel good. This is my space. This is too close. This is too far, right? Because you don't have that romantic charge. And sometimes when we get the romance thing in our head, then it's harder for us to say what we want, what we need, set our boundaries. And so leverage this gentleman as a beautiful soul, because he does feel very safe. I don't know that he's so innocent. I think he's got some motives there, and he's thinking he's just going to wear you down. But even with that, I think that's a beautiful thing, because then you practice. Like, I'm not going to let a guy wear me down, right? Like, I'm not going to end up falling in love with someone just because they paid attention to me. I'm not saying you're doing that, but just because they gave me the attention. I think it's great as a woman if you can really have that discernment and that knowingness, because sometimes it's nice to just have male attention. But if they're not in alignment with what we're here to do, then I'm proud of you for not just like acting on it, or just like allowing him to sort of push into your space. So it feels like you're doing all the right things, and I would just keep going on the fun factor and communicating and using it as this great opportunity. Because when your guy comes, then you've got all these extra communication tools in your toolbox. So. All right, I'd love to hear any comments or feedback on that. Okay, we have another live studio audience. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
About 10 days ago, I was feeling great, very optimistic, excited about the new year, and I got a sudden sharp pain in my right hip. And it kind of comes and goes for the last 10 days.
Yeah.
So my question is how to heal it.
So when you were speaking, the words that came were slow down. I feel like you're already a very intentional person. So I know sometimes when we hear this, it's like, but I'm already pretty slow. I mean, not that you're slow, but that there's something you're supposed to be sitting with, and that there's something that is a pain in your ass, literally, that you really want to get to. And the only way to do it is to stop you with the physical body pain, so that you can't ignore that maybe there's just something a little off. And so, yeah, it just feels like slow down, sit with it. I know you can't necessarily sit with sciatic pain, but sit with it from an internal reflection standpoint, and see, what is it in there that's, and also slow down, but just slow movements. It feels like sometimes, when we're moving so fast because we can. And then when you slow down and you kind of go like this, and you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get that. I kind of get this. And it feels like there's something I'm touching my lower back. Like, it feels like you're energetically supposed to readjust yourself so that the energy line opens. And it also feels like there's something in your hand that you could possibly be working on, just from a touch point, and just kind of feeling like, okay, how does that change things for me? And then, where is it? It feels like a nuance in there. It's not like some big pull or strain or anything. It also feels like, and I don't mean to demean it, because I know how terrible and like hard it is to go with sciatic pain. But, if you've ever had that where you sleep wrong and your neck has that kink, so it's like, it's just temporary. It's just really temporary. And so what's coming is to not put too much attention on the pain, because then everything around it wants to react more and acknowledge that you're feeling the pain. And so there's something there to just let go of. And I think just sitting with it and just really, getting in there. And something's a big pain in the ass, but I think you're right on it. And it's gonna just release. It feels really quickly, like within the next 24 hours is what it feels like. But feel into it and just do some of that work on your own back, and take that energy in your fingertips and just ask the fingertips to just like almost as though you had like a little taser gun on your fingertips and just press back there along. I'm getting along the spine. I don't know why, but and maybe it is down that sciatic nerve too, but it feels like it's like something in your lower back, and just press into that and send it love. Just send it love through that light, that little energy zap in your fingertip. Yeah, I'd be very interested to know what happens. So if you're up for it, let us know.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, do we have, we're almost down to the hour, but do we have anybody, are they all extra shy today online? No? Okay. All right. Well, we are down to the end of the hour, and each week I am so happy that you're here with us. I love having the questions come through. There's often themes and a lot of good stuff that comes. If you want more support, you can always go to bethbell.me. There's lots of guides and books. You can book a session. We've got the Awakening and Healing Handbook, the Psychedelics Resource Guide. There's also the Herpes Handbook and many, many more. There's the Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, which is in my Awakening memoir that I think you'll find interesting because I got myself into a lot of things and I got myself out of a lot of things. And I think at the end of the day, one of the big surprises that I get from anyone who's read it is they say, wow, we've lived such similar lives. And I'm like, really? Did you live in New York and then you moved to Singapore and then you were in India and then Bali and back? It's like, well, no, of course not. But it's the emotions that we go through, the life experiences, the devastation and the big wins and all of that, and learning the lessons through it is the most important thing we can do. So if you have any interest in going deeper on your journey, I'm happy to support you in whatever way possible. You can always take the State of the Heart assessment on bethbell.me. And if you liked anything today, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, and then you'll be notified each week when we go live at 11:11 on Sundays, Pacific time. And until then, wishing you much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste. Okay.